Spider-Man is one of the most popular superheroes of all time. But how was he made? Today I'm talking about the history of Spider-Man, talking about the comics, TV shows, and movies. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Spider-Man first appeared in the comic book Amazing Fantasy 15 in August 1962. Stan Lee created Spider-Man as a character that teens could identify with. Parker becomes Spider-Man after being bit by a radioactive spider. That's how your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man became a thing. Oh, and here's a fun fact. When Stan Lee told the idea to his boss, he said no one would like a kid not being the sidekick. He's just a kid, so Stan Lee couldn't do it. But on the Fantastic Four, he put a picture of Spider-Man, and people loved it. In that same year, Stan got a call from his boss, and he said, "Stan, remember that spider dude you and I thought was a great idea? You should make him into a comic about him." That's how Spider-Man was created, known to be the most popular superhero of all time. With that being said, let's talk about the show. In 1967, the first Spider-Man show was made, and it did very good. But there was a slight problem. The show had very low budget, so the animators had to do a few animations for the entire show. People didn't care, it was 1967, people! And by the way, I could never draw animations on paper. Like, how do they do it? I have trouble on my tablet, people! And my favorite part about it is the iconic meme point. Memories. Now that we're done talking about the show, let's get into the first movie. In 1977, the first Spider-Man movie came out. Honestly, I'm not going to be talking about this movie because 1, I can't find the movie, and 2, no one remembers it. Unless you're over 50. Boom! The Spider-Man movie came out in 2002, which made $825 million? What? The movie is about during a school field trip to Columbia University. Peter Parker, a shy, naughty high school outcast, has been bitten by a radioactive spider. Peter discovers the spider has granted him superhuman abilities of a spider. He puts his powers to good use after his Uncle Ben is killed by a carjacker. Pretty similar to the Spider-Man origin, which I think is a great idea. In the second Spider-Man movie, Peter Parker is struggling to stop the scientist Dr. Otto Octavius from a dangerous experiment that killed his wife and left him nervous and fused robot tentacles. Peter's love for Mary Jane is becoming much stronger, and his friendship with Harry Osborn is at risk. Honestly, I love this movie, and I love Dr. Otto. He is just one of the best villains. Well, except Venom. Speaking of Venom, it's time for a fun movie. Spider-Man 3. Let's just get this over with. A strange black entity from another world bonds with Peter Parker. Honestly, this could have been a good movie, but they had to put Sandman in it. Why couldn't they just do Venom? Oh, and Hobgoblin, by the way. After the third Spider-Man movie, we haven't got a Spider-Man movie ever since. Until 2012! The Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012, which was starring Andrew Garfield, and boy, that was my mom's favorite Spider-Man. Honestly, I can see why. Just his cockiness and funny attitude just made him an amazing Spider-Man. But when this movie came out, people weren't having none of that. People hated Andrew Garfield back then, and I feel like I know why. People just don't like change. And I'm one of those people who doesn't like change. None of us like change. But it's a part of life. Anyways, let's get into what this movie is all about. After being bitten by a radioactive spider, Peter acquires amazing abilities which will help him achieve things one could only dream about. In a life fight for the city, Peter will strive to protect New York City from the threat of his friend turned enemy, Dr. Connors, who has transformed into the Lizard. Now we're done with The Amazing Spider-Man, let's get into The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is just like Spider-Man 3. Too many villains, but in a good way. I think it's pretty cool that Hobgoblin / Harry and Electro work together to stop Spider-Man. I like this movie, but there's one thing I don't like about this movie, is that someone dies. If any Spider-Man fans are watching this, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, I won't spoil it for you. Now that 2 of the Spider-Man movies are done, let's get into the last Spider-Man movie. In this movie, it doesn't really tell us about how Peter got bitten by a radioactive spider or about his Uncle Ben. In this movie, Peter's just trying to stop Vulture. Not really my favorite Spider-Man movie, but it's there if you need it. Now let's get into Spider-Man Far From Home. I like this movie way better than the first. It's all about Peter Parker, the beloved superhero Spider-Man, faces 4 destructive elemental monsters while on a holiday in Europe. Soon he receives help from Mysterio, a fellow hero with mysterious origins, who becomes a villain in the end, because he's Mysterio. It's pretty good, but it's nothing compared to Spider-Man No Way Home is the best Spider-Man movie of all time. The movie starts off with Dr. Mysterio telling everyone that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. After that, Peter asks Doctor Strange to forget everyone that he is Spider-Man. But when Doctor Strange tries to do what Peter asked, the spell didn't work, causing the multiverse to break open, causing foes from different dimensions into Peter's world. And with the help of the other 2 Spider-Mans to help him defeat their foes. Man, my mom was so excited to see Andrew Garfield. But at the end, there was a lot of villains going to Peter's world. So Peter had no choice that everyone in the world to forget that he was Spider-Man. That means MJ and Ned had to forget that he was Spider-Man. And the passing of Aunt May, and at the end, Peter lost everything. But he is still the amazing Spider-Man. Thank you for listening to me talk about Spider-Man, and I hope you have a good day. And I'll see you soon. Holy crap, now I have to talk about the shows now? Marvel, you little... In the series featured Peter Parker having to balance crime fighting with his responsibilities as a university student, a part-time photographer for Daily Bugle. Pretty normal Spider-Man is just kicking butt and being a photographer. Just like the Spider-Man 1981 series, just about Spider-Man and his friends just kicking butt. Again, just like the 2 other Spider-Man shows, just protecting New York City while being a photographer. Now let's get into the show that I love. Spider-Man Ultimate is about Spider-Man going on a rocket ship, but then something happens and sends Peter to a different dimension, that all his villains are good guys in the other world. And I heard that people didn't like the show. And I'm not one of those people. So now let's get into the next show. Spider-Man is the same as Spider-Man 1981, just saving New York City and being a photographer. But there's a character helping Spider-Man. His name is Miles Morales. And that's Spider-Man 2017. Let's do the next one again. It's about Peter Parker learning his new powers and new responsibilities. And he must protect New York City from Vulture, Electro, the Lizard, Sandman, Rhino, Dr. Octavius, Chameleon, and Black Cat. The show was pretty good, but it ended with 2 seasons, which were really sad. But at least we got more Spider-Man shows, so let's get into it. This show is really good. Nice animation, good voice acting, it was great. But anyways, it's all about Nick Fury asked Spider-Man if he wanted to be like the Avengers, so Spider-Man obviously said yes. So Nick Fury gave him an iron suit and a spider bike, and he defeats his enemies with them. And I'm done. Now you might be wondering, why the heck did I do that? Well, because I love Spider-Man. We all love Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man. Well, mostly everyone.